Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It's Tuesday, February 3rd. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set to rally this morning with ASX futures up more than 1.1%. Global equities gained overnight while the US dollar and bond yields rose and precious metals came under further selling pressure. On Wall Street, the S&P 500 rallied to a record high, buoyed by gains in AI-related companies, while smaller companies also rose sharply, with the Russell 2000 index retracing the previous session's losses. Alphabet and Amazon both rose ahead of their quarterly reports later this week that will give investors an additional look at the race to dominate AI technology. AI-related data firm Palantir climbed ahead of its quarterly report after the bell. Chip makers benefiting from AI-related demand for all their components also rallied. Disney shares fell heavily after the company posted quarterly earnings above Wall Street expectations, but warned of a decline in international visitors to its US theme parks and a slump in earnings at TV and film division. US-listed shares of rare earth miners rose in pre-market trade on reports that President Trump is set to launch a strategic critical mineral stockpile with $12 billion in seed money. And a 5% fall in oil prices saw energy stocks fall while boosting airline shares. And further falls in precious metal prices exacerbated the sell-off in the miners. Well, US factory activity grew for the first time in a year in January, with new orders rebounding sharply, but import tariffs raised raw material prices and strained supply chains. New orders, employment and prices paid indicators all rose. Meanwhile, FOMC member Raphael Bostic, who retires this month, says he didn't project any interest rate cuts this year, saying, "I think we have so much momentum in the economy that we need to keep our policy rate in a mildly restrictive stance. If you look at the returns, the profits in so many businesses, I think it's hard to make a case that our policy stance is heavily restrictive." Well, on the geopolitical front, Iran said talks with the US over a new nuclear deal could get underway in the coming days. And President Trump has agreed on a trade deal with India that slashes US tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from 50%, in exchange for India lowering trade barriers, stopping its purchases of Russian oil and buying US oil instead. US Treasury yields have risen as traders consider if Federal Reserve Chair nominee Kevin Warsh will take a hawkish or dovish approach when he assumes the role in May. The yield on the 2-year note rose to 3.55%. The 10-year is around 4.25%. Australian 3-year government bond yields have risen to 4.32%, with markets pricing in a 75% chance the RBA cash rate will be hiked by 25 basis points at today's meeting. The US dollar index is up more than 0.5% on the day. The Aussie dollar is trading at 69.5 US cents. Commodity markets have slumped, led by deep losses in gold, silver, oil and industrial metals. Gold slid 5% to its lowest in more than 2 weeks, to be down around 17% since Friday, and is currently trading around $4,660 an ounce, while silver has fallen a further 7% to be around $80 an ounce. Copper's down around 2.5%, iron ore 1% lower at 104 US a tonne, and oil prices have also fallen sharply after President Trump said Iran was seriously talking with Washington, signalling a de-escalation of tensions with the major oil producer, while the stronger dollar also put downward pressure on prices. Brent crude close to 5% lower at $66 a barrel. And Bitcoin is trading at around 78,000 US dollars, having fallen below 76,000 earlier overnight. Locally today, the focus will be on the RBA when it reveals its interest rate decision at 2:30 Eastern this afternoon, with expectations that it will lift the cash rate by 25 basis points to 3.85%. And on the corporate calendar, those companies due to report earnings include Credit Corp and Pinnacle Investment Management. That is your day ahead. See you again tomorrow.